Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep on Elon Musk and his relationship with Donald Trump, especially now that Trump is back in the White House. We've got two articles that look at this from a few different angles. Uh, One's diving into, the potential benefits for Musk under a Trump presidency, and the other one looks at whether X, formerly Twitter, actually might have helped get Trump elected.
It's really fascinating, this alliance. We're talking a tech titan and a political heavyweight. Together like this, it's unprecedented, you know?
Yeah, it's like a superhero team up, but with
Yeah.
rockets and algorithms instead of cape.
Exactly. And the stakes are high. Musk isn't just watching from the sidelines here. He's in the game. I mean, you remember that picture of him at Trump's victory celebration in Florida?
Oh, yeah. That was everywhere. And then there's the $119 million donation to that pro-Trump super pay hey, plus that whole get out the vote thing he pushed.
Yeah.
I mean, most tech CEOs don't get that involved in politics, do they? Not usually. No, they're usually more behind the scenes. Yeah, lobbying and stuff. Not making these big public displays of support. So why is Musk different? I think it might come down to what he stands to gain from a Trump presidency.
Okay, so let's talk about those potential benefits. Spill the tea.
Well, Trump has mentioned this idea of a Department of Government Efficiency, calling it DOGE, and he wants Musk to head it up. Now, think about what that could mean for companies like SpaceX. They're already dominating the government satellite launch market. With DOGE, their government contracts could explode, maybe even increase by 50% or more, which could make them the undisputed leader in space exploration.
50% more, that's huge. But wouldn't that be a conflict of interest, though?
Absolutely. Some people are worried that this whole Musk-Trump situation could hurt people's trust in SpaceX and Tesla.
Yeah, I guess it kind of blurs the lines between business and government.
Right. It starts to look like favoritism, and no one likes a lack of transparency.
So while SpaceX is shooting for the stars, things might get messy back here on Earth.
Exactly. And speaking of Earth, let's talk about Tesla for a minute. Trump has talked about cutting back on regulations, which would be a huge win for Tesla. They've had their fair share of regulatory scrutiny.
Yeah, especially with that ongoing investigation into their self-driving software and all those accusations about Musk trying to stop workers from unionizing. Do you think a Trump presidency would impact those issues?
Definitely something to consider. Less regulation could give Tesla a big advantage. They could grow faster, innovate more, without all the usual red tape. But again, it raises questions about fairness. Will all companies get the same benefits? Or will Tesla get special treatment because of Musk's connections?
So SpaceX is dealing with government contracts, and Tesla's facing its own set of challenges. And then on top of that, our other article drops this bombshell that X might have actually helped get Trump elected. It's saying that X basically became a megaphone, amplifying Trump's message and giving him an edge in the election.
All right, so now we're getting into the world of social media algorithms and their power to influence what people think. Think about it like this. You're scrolling through your X feed, and you see a post from a friend sharing an article about Trump's latest policy. You might be interested, so you click it and read it. But what you might not realize is that X's algorithm chose which posts you see. And it's showing you things that fit with what you've clicked on before and what's trending on the platform.
So are you saying that X is creating these echo chambers where people are just seeing information that supports their existing beliefs, even if that information is wrong or biased?
Exactly. And that could have had a huge impact during the election. If X's algorithm kept pushing pro-Trump stuff to people who already liked him, it could have reinforced their support and maybe even swayed some undecided voters.
It's like X was nudging people towards a certain outcome without them even realizing it.
Right, and the article quotes some social media experts who say that these algorithms, combined with what Musk himself was doing on the platform, created this perfect storm for political manipulation. Information spreads so fast on social media, whether it's true or not. It's like wildfire, one expert said. And traditional media outlets are always trying to catch up, fact-checking and trying to give context. But by then, the narrative has already taken hold.
And Musk has said that X has replaced traditional media. He even called it the signal, like it's showing us where society is headed. That's a bold statement. What role is X really playing in how we understand the world?
It's definitely a question worth considering. How much can we really blame Trump's win on X? It's a complicated question. A lot of things contributed to the election results, but we can't ignore X's influence.
The article mentions this crazy statistic. Republican advertisers spent way more on X during the campaign. And guess who the biggest spender was? The Trump campaign. They dropped $1 million. It shows that they knew how powerful X was for reaching voters and changing their minds.
$1 million says a lot. It points to this trend we've been seeing, this convergence of right-wing politics in the tech industry. It's been happening for a while, but it seems like it's gotten stronger in recent years, with X becoming like the center of it all.
One expert even compared X under Musk to a one-sided campaign platform. That's harsh.
It is. It makes you wonder, if the head of a social media platform is openly supporting one candidate, can that platform really be neutral? This perceived bias. It's raising concerns about the impact on democracy and freedom of speech.
And the article also brings up the lack of regulation for social media. It says that X under Musk has become an increasingly hostile and unusable place for those not subscribing to right-wing beliefs.
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
Without strong regulations, these platforms can turn into echo chambers, where certain viewpoints are amplified and others are silenced. This has major implications for democracy and the free exchange of ideas.
So we've got Musk, this super influential tech guy, aligning himself with Trump, who's back in the White House. And we've got X, this massive social media platform, potentially wielding a lot of power over politics. It's a lot to think about, and it makes you wonder about the future of our democracy.
It's a lot to unpack, for sure. This deep dive has really shown us the complicated relationship between technology, politics, and power. It's a situation that's constantly changing, and it's important for us to stay informed and engaged to make sure that technology empowers people and isn't used for manipulation.
You've given us a lot to think about. We've talked about Musk's support for Trump, the potential benefits for his companies, and the disturbing possibility that X helped swing the election. It's all connected, with potential conflicts of interest everywhere. So what do we do now? How do we make sure that power, especially the kind that tech giants like Musk have, is used responsibly and ethically?
That's the big question. One thing we need is more transparency. We need to know how decisions are being made, who's influencing those decisions, and who's benefiting from them. Without transparency, there's no accountability.
Transparency is essential. But we also need to empower ourselves as citizens. We need to be smarter about the information we consume, whether it's from traditional media or social media. We need to think critically and learn to spot bias, misinformation, and manipulation.
Couldn't agree more. There's so much information out there. It's easy to get caught up in sensational headlines and emotional rhetoric. But now more than ever, it's important to stop, question things, and consider different perspectives before we form our own opinions.
Like that saying, don't believe everything you read on the internet. But it's not just the internet anymore. It's about realizing that every source of information has its own biases, whether it's a news article, a social media post, or even a conversation with a friend. We need to be aware of the things that might be shaping the information we're getting.
Exactly. And this brings us back to Musk and Trump. If Trump keeps his promises to deregulate industries and make it easier to get government contracts, Musk's companies could become even more powerful. So what can we do to prevent a situation where private companies have too much influence over the government and public discourse? That's something we all need to be thinking about.
It's a tough question, but we can't ignore it. This deep dive has been a journey into the heart of a powerful alliance, an alliance that could change the tech world and the political landscape for years to come. So moving forward, we need to stay vigilant, engaged, and committed to making sure that technology serves humanity, and not the other way around. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
And it's prioritizing content that aligns with your past engagement and the overall trends on the platform.
So you're saying X's algorithm might be creating these echo chambers where people are mainly exposed to information that reinforces their existing beliefs, even if those beliefs are based on like misinformation or biased perspectives.
Precisely. And during the election. This algorithmic amplification could have had a really profound impact. If X's algorithm was consistently pushing pro-Trump content to users who were already receptive to his message, it could have created this powerful feedback loop, reinforcing their support and maybe even influencing undecided voters.
That's a pretty unsettling thought. It's like X was subtly nudging people towards a particular political outcome, even if they weren't fully aware of it.
Right. The article quotes social media experts who argue that X's algorithms, combined with Musk's own actions on the platform, created this unique and unprecedented environment for political manipulation. Think about how quickly information spreads on social media. Accurate and inaccurate information. It's like a wildfire. One expert even said that. Traditional media outlets are often playing catch-up, trying to fact-check and provide context, but by then the narrative has already taken hold.
And Musk has said that X has basically replaced traditional media. He called it the signal of where society is headed. That's a pretty big statement. It really makes you think about the role X is playing in shaping how we understand the world.
It's a claim that definitely deserves careful consideration. To what extent can we really say that Trump's win was because of X? That's a tough question. There's no simple answer. Obviously, lots of factors contributed to the election results. But we can't ignore X's influence.
The article highlights a pretty striking statistic. It says that Republican-leaning advertisers totally dominated ad spending on X during the campaign. And guess who the biggest spender was? The Trump campaign. They spent $1 million on X ads. That's a huge investment. It suggests that they knew how powerful X was for reaching voters and trying to persuade them.
Yeah, $1 million speaks volumes. It really highlights this concerning trend we've been seeing, the convergence of right-wing politics and the tech industry. It's not a brand new thing, but it seems like it's really intensified in recent years, and X has become a focal point for this alliance.
One expert even went as far as to compare X under Musk to a one-sided campaign platform.
That's a pretty damning assessment. It suggests that X, under Musk's leadership, has become a space where certain viewpoints are amplified and others are marginalized.
This raises some serious questions about the power dynamics at play here. When the head of a major social media platform openly supports one candidate, can we really expect that platform to stay neutral? This perceived bias is leading to concerns about the platform's impact on democracy and freedom of speech.
It's a valid concern. And the article also points to the lack of effective regulation surrounding social media platforms. It argues that X under Musk's stewardship has become an increasingly hostile and unusable place for those not subscribing to right-wing beliefs.
That's a pretty strong statement.
It is, and it's a critical point. The absence of robust regulations has allowed these platforms to basically become echo chambers, where some viewpoints are amplified and others are silenced. This has profound implications for democracy and the free exchange of ideas. It could hinder open dialogue and foster division.
So where does this leave us? We have Musk, this incredibly influential tech figure, aligning himself with Trump, who's now back in the White House. And we have X, this massive social media platform, with the potential to significantly influence the political landscape. There's a lot to take in, and it raises some critical questions about the future of our democracy.
Yeah, it really is a lot to process. I mean, this deep dive has shown us the complicated connections between technology and politics and power. It's always changing, too, so we need to stay informed and make sure technology helps people and isn't used to manipulate them.
You've definitely given us a lot to think about. We've covered Musk's support for Trump, the potential benefits for his companies, and how X might have even helped Trump win the election. It's a tangled web, with potential conflicts of interest everywhere you look. So where do we go from here? What can we do to make sure that power, especially the kind that tech giants like Musk have, is used responsibly and ethically?
That's the question, isn't it? Well, one important step is more transparency. We need to know how these decisions are made, who's influencing them, and who benefits. Without transparency, there can't be any accountability.
Transparency is crucial for sure, but we also need to take responsibility ourselves. We have to be more critical of the information we consume. Whether it's from traditional media or social media, we need to think for ourselves and learn how to spot bias and misinformation and manipulation tactics.
Exactly. We're bombarded with information these days. It's so easy to get swept up in those attention-grabbing headlines and all the emotional language people use. But it's more important than ever to stop and question things and consider different viewpoints before forming our own opinions.
It's like that saying, don't believe everything you read on the internet. But it's not just about the internet anymore. It's about understanding that any source of information can have its own biases and agendas, whether it's a news article or a social media post, or even just talking to a friend. We need to be aware of the things that might be shaping the information we're getting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that brings us back to Musk and Trump. If Trump delivers on those promises to cut regulations and streamline government contracts, Musk's companies could become even more powerful. What can we do to stop private companies from having too much influence over the government and how we talk about these issues? That's something we all need to be thinking about.
It's a tough question for sure, but we can't just ignore it. This deep dive has been a fascinating look at a really powerful alliance, one that could have major implications for the tech world and politics for years to come. So as we move forward, we need to stay informed and engaged and work to make sure that technology serves us and not the other way around. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.